I think it was a big question for all of us, like, what are we? Who are we? Why are we telling stories? Why is this important? Is this actually even important? Like, is telling stories when such horrendous events are happening, is it important, or is this just like an indulgement in something, So I think all of us and every, crew member that was there, everyone knew exactly why they were there, because we were like, this is so important to tell this story, to get it out into the world, for people to see what, resilience is, what love is, how it changes you, how war changes you, and who are you in the end of the day.
Welcome everyone to the Kinolime podcast. Oh man, do we have a treat today. We have Alice Biletska, filmmaker of Our House on Fire, coming to you from Ukraine?
I'm in right now.
You're in Germany right now, but a Ukrainian filmmaker who made a fantastic film, Our House on Fire, which premiered in Kyiv 2 weeks ago or 10 days ago, and also in Berlin. So we're so excited and thankful that Alice has taken the time to join us. So Alice, welcome. Thank you for joining and giving us the time. And man, I think I've seen photos of you as a blonde, and you threw me off just now with the cherry red fire. I love the hair, by the way.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for having me. I think, I dyed my hair halfway through the editing process. I woke up one day back in Ukraine. We were massively bombed. And I'm like, you know what? Life is so short
Sure.
to be blonde. So why would I not just change it to dark cherry? So I love it.
It looks great. And I'm happy that you chose to dye your hair, not shave your head.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Because in an editing process, that could always get the
No,
inkling to
that's a
just
bit much. Yeah, yeah,
buzz it off. But so you're in Germany right now. So you had the premiere last week in Berlin.
yeah.
Congrats
Yeah,
on that as well.
yeah.
So this must be a whirlwind. I mean, you go from, the impetus of the film, which we'll get to, but now here you are finally getting people to have eyes on it, premiering in Kiev and Berlin. And
Yeah, no, I think it's always very, you're getting your baby out, and you get people to see it, you get to see reactions, to hear thoughts and reviews. So it's always a very, you know, in a good way, stressful process.
of
And so
course.
far we've been very lucky because we've been getting really good feedback, um, a lot of emotional, not only just reviews, but also just by the people, and it was both on Ukrainian and German side, which I think is a testament to the whole crew and the whole process that it's working. So yeah.
Absolutely. And what a process it is. I mean, the film's great and fantastic. But I'd love to go back to Alice pre-filmmaker. What got you into film? I don't know the Ukrainian film world at all, so you can educate us on that too. But I would love to know, like, how did you get into it? Like, did you always have a passion for film? Like, tell us a little bit about yourself on the film side.
So I wanted to be in film since I was a child. And then my dad was very rigorous, telling me that I will end up dead somewhere in the alley with like no nose and rotten teeth because I'm not going to have money
Oh,
for
okay.
anything. So I got a finance degree, and then I got an art history degree. So I was working a lot. But then at some point, when the war in 2014 started, I was like, you know what, it's stupid. So I started shooting short films, and I started, playing with theater a little bit more. And then I lived in Paris for some time, and I kind of started my theater journey there. Then back in Ukraine, kind of continued with short films, experimental films.
Mhm.
And then just at some point, I was like, this feels right. And I think
Sure.
this career is so hard that I think you better try to do anything else. And I tried. I was, a journalist, an art curator, and an artist, and like so many other things. But this was the only thing that felt very like this is what I'm meant to do.
Sure. It's interesting that you went from finance, which is more left brain, to but then you snuck in
Oh,
there the art history. So clearly you're drawn to the
I
arts. And
was, I would be a horrible
yeah,
financialist, like horrible, like. the only class that I loved during my bachelor's degree from finance was, history of culture. I would have been
Yeah.
absolutely horrible. And then I was the first Ukrainian director to be admitted to AFI, American Film Institute in
Oh,
LA.
wow.
There I got my third degree. So I kind of, along the way have had the time and luck and chance to get, a lot of introductions to different forms of education.
And if I heard you correctly, you mentioned the war, but from 2014.
Correct.
Correct.
Yeah.
So, okay. So then 2014, you decided, screw it, I'm going to go for it. And
Yeah.
then you're making short films, you're an AFI.
Yeah.
Take us to Our House on Fire. And that idea, obviously, I don't know if you had I would love to just know where that came from and the
Yeah.
impetus and the creation of that.
So basically in 2022, the full scale invasion started in Ukraine, and I was in LA at that point, absolutely devastated and heartbroken, just as every Ukrainian. And I was volunteering and I was working, and I was like, I can't do anything that's not connected to Ukraine. And I was offered some jobs in LA, and I'm like, I just physically cannot do it. So I wrote a script, and I was kind of, I mean, looking back, it's a weird decision to write a script that's going to take place in Ukraine during the war. Like, logic didn't appear there. Like, who would finance this? Who would make this happen? It's like, I was just like, this is the only thing that I can do and I want to do. And then, luckily enough, I got to meet Brian Perkins, who's our producer, and I was like, this is the script, this is the idea. I want to go to Ukraine, I want to shoot. I don't care that the war is still happening.
Mm-hmm.
We have to go, we have to make it. We have to show the world what's going on, what it takes from a person to be part of this war. And I
Sure.
think what humanity is during the war, and it's kind of a love letter to Ukrainian people in general, because everyone thought that Ukraine is going to fall in 3 days.
Oh, yeah.
So it's a testament to, like, no, the people, and so Brian really liked the script, and then Brian got connected with Danny and Oleg and
Yeah.
Ezreal, and those guys were incredible enough to be like, let's go, let's shoot it during the war. With no insurance, with no nothing.
Yeah.
It's like, so we were the first narrative production since the full scale invasion, who got to shoot the movie. Maybe not the first one, maybe like the second one or something like that. But it was in early 2023, and it was insane. It was, bombs, curfews, no electricity, and just this feeling that somehow we're going through the end of the world, but also the beginning of something
Sure.
very important.
Yeah. And
You
for everyone
know,
at home that doesn't know, just to give you a little bit about the story, it's about a woman who, Ukrainian but living in Los Angeles, comes home for her brother's wedding, and then the invasion happens, and her choices in deciding to stay, and torn between family and love, and it's really, really powerful. But Alice and the crew like shot during the war, like, and I'd love to know, some stories about that. But they set this film, you know, with the main character's journey inside the actual war, which is like pretty incredible. So, like, I mean,
yeah.
I know everyone wants to know, like, how was that like filming during war?
It was, funny enough, I think people get, just used to something super fast. So
Mm-hmm.
for us, yes, we were living, like, we got bombed, and then I'm like, okay, everyone is fine, everyone is cool. We have to continue to make the day.
Yep.
And we're bumped during the night, and then the next morning we go to set, we have breakfast, we all discuss, is everyone alive, how's everything happening. And then I'm like, okay guys, we have to make the day, because also we have the curfew, so we cannot be shooting too
Oh, that's
late.
right.
And
Yeah, the curfew. Yeah.
so in a way, we were not just telling the story, we were living the
Yeah.
story. So in a way, I think it was a big question for all of us, like, what are we? Who are we? Why are we telling stories? Why is this important?
Hmm.
Is this actually even important? Like, is telling stories when such horrendous events are happening, is it important, or is this just like an indulgement in something,
Sure.
So I think all of us and every, crew member that was there, everyone knew exactly why they were there, because we were like, this is so important to tell this story, to get it out into the world, for people to see what, resilience is, what love is, how it changes you, how war changes you, and who are you in the end of the day when you're, face to face with evil. What is humanity with all of that? So I think as we were posing those questions on screen, we were also living through them, So
Oh
I
yeah.
think it became super personal for, well, all of us.
Were there any close calls on production? Like, is there anything that stands out in particular, an event that
I
was
mean,
when you were filming it? You know.
yeah, we had our production design people staying on the location because they couldn't leave because of a curfew,
Yeah.
and I believe the bombs were dropped like 500 meters away from the location while they were there. So, you know,
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's just, and you're like, okay. Or like in May, bombings were insane, and it would be like happening through the entire night. And then in the morning, you haven't had any sleep and you still wake up at 5. I mean, you get up at 5 because you haven't slept, and you go back to set and you just basically hope that it doesn't hit you. And obviously, we had one of the people on set, part of the production. They were monitoring all the time. If there is air sirens, what kind of
Mm-hmm.
bombing are coming, what kind of rockets or shaheds, or what is it, ultrasonic. So like they were constantly tracking whether we have to close the set or not
Mm-hmm.
to go to bomb shelter. So like things like that, which you know, uh, being there, you make it feel normal because you
Sure.
have to normalize it to go through it. Then obviously looking back, you're like, oh damn, that was
Yeah, I remember speaking to Brian. Yeah, we were giving some notes on the script at one of the early drafts, and he was just, they were just talking about just, oh, I was just, we had to go into the bomb shelter before, like we were being bombed. There was air siren. It was just, for someone who's never been involved in that, very
yeah,
jarring. And he was just sort of like, this is what you do, and
yeah,
you're trying to live and then at the same time make art.
yeah.
It must have been interesting. You mentioned something about how war changes you. I'd love to know how war has changed you as a filmmaker.
Um, I think the way it changes you as a filmmaker, it kind of makes you understand what's actually important and what's not. And then at some point, you look at a lot of movies and you have really hard time relating to it because you're like, guys, it's not a problem,
Yeah.
or this is not what the world is,
Mm-hmm.
or the behavior of the characters. Quite often, you look at it and you're like, it's super infantile, or quite often it's just doesn't reflect the struggle that's actually going on in the hearts of people,
Mm-hmm.
because the world is falling apart. So
Yeah.
I think cinema has that responsibility either to reflect it
Mm-hmm.
or to give an answer,
Sure.
or to give some kind of a feeling of what could be done for either to stop it or to survive it. So I'm a big believer these days in movies about transformation, about belief, about hope, about how we should be helping one another to go through whatever the hell is happening,
Mm-hmm.
and how we can be the radical change in the system for it never happen again. So I think from that perspective, like I didn't watch when the war started, when the full scale invasion happened, like I didn't watch movies for like a year because it
Mm-hmm.
was like I'm like I cannot relate to quite a lot of issues of people
Sure.
because it just doesn't seem or I could have been watching a lot of like fantasy movies,
Yeah,
stuff
yeah,
like
just to get out of it. Yeah, I can
just like
imagine.
a complete escapism. So yeah, I now believe a lot in the movies that are about love, about freedom, about humanity, about just this utter belief in what can be changed to try to prevent this.
How has the Ukrainian film business evolved since the war? I don't. Again, maybe you can educate our viewers and everyone on the Ukrainian side. But are there a lot of films being made right now? Is it
Yeah,
halted?
so there's been a lot of documentaries have been done, and some amazing documentaries. Like my editor, he's also a director of a great movie that got into Cannes Film Festival, and our production house that we worked with, Tabor, they got to produce some fantastic documentary films that are like traveling all over the world,
Mm,
right? Obviously, Mstislav Chernov, who won an Oscar for his documentary. So I think documentary world is developing, but fiction is tough because there is basically no state funding
mm,
to be shooting narrative things, which I think is a problem because obviously we understand why it's happening because the money is going to the front lines and like to more um, things that are urgent these days. But also, I think where unfortunately Russia is winning is they produce so many movies. They
mhm,
produce so many propaganda movies that travel around the world, and they create this narrative about
mhm,
Russians in general. So I think this is where the cultural diplomacy of Ukraine has to be much stronger. And
mm,
I think, in general, if we look into history, when whatever government comes to power, they usually invest a lot of money into culture because we understand that's the front where that can be changing
sure.
and integrating those new values and all of that. So Ukraine has a lot of incredible filmmakers, super talented ones, and before the full scale invasion, there were a lot of pictures in the festivals and etc. But these days, it's quite complicated.
Yeah, that's interesting. You talked about the cultural diplomacy. Obviously we know the bad versions of like how the Nazis did their propaganda, but then you have post World War II, the Americans, the French, and the Brits,
Yeah,
making hopeful films about how to rebuild and what
yeah,
is life like in a post-war
yeah,
world.
yeah,
Um, Hopefully Ukraine can scrounge up some funds or other
yeah,
countries can chip in to make sure those voices have an avenue to make
yeah.
those films. Because I think that's post World War II. You see, even like Tolkien, who wrote
100%.
Lord of the Rings, right? It was about his experience on the front lines in World War One and what he saw. So I think there's a lot there that we could learn from, and
I think
it's so desperate to get those funds. Yeah,
Yeah, and I think in general, like art of 20th century is just a witness of the radical change because of the war, and
sure.
everyone that question like, is there a world after, Auschwitz or
Yeah,
all of those things.
yeah.
So I think it needs to be much more stories need to be told also for people because in the Western world, a lot of people are a bit tired, from that kind of whole narrative about the war, and everyone is like, yeah, it's been going on for quite some time at this point. Everyone's like, eh.
Yeah.
I think creative narrative movies is actually then it becomes so much more emotionally engaging because you get invested into the characters. And
Yes.
with the characters, you get to move along and you get to be in their shoes. And then you get to go home and be like, oh my God, what would I do?
Yeah.
If that happens to my family, if that comes to my house,
Sure.
what do I do? And I think the more people pose those questions, the better it is for the entire world in general.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
So let's talk about some happy things. So you make this movie. This is your first narrative feature,
Yeah.
and you put the hard work. You're editing. You're dyeing your hair. Now, the first premiere in Kiev, right?
Yeah.
Take us through what you're feeling that opening night when all your hard work, and almost you must feel like you have a country on your back too, right? Like this for this film,
It
in a
was, yeah,
way.
it was I was so nervous that I couldn't even think
Yeah.
clearly. And I think the moment when you see like the entire room of like 300 or 400 people, go in there and you're like, oh my God.
Yeah.
So I couldn't watch the movie with them because I'm like, there's no way. But I think what was what was scary for me is that when we were shooting the movie in 2023, I didn't think, and none of us thought, that we're going to be showing the movie still during the war in 2025.
Yeah. Oh, it's
So,
interesting. Yeah. That's
yeah, because I was sure that by the time we're going to be screening it, that's it.
that's it.
Ukraine is going to win. So I think it was that, and we got such emotional feedback. And I think for a lot of Ukrainians, it's insanely hard to watch because it gets you back to February
Mm,
24th of
to that
2020.
mindset. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And it's tough, and I think it's kind of also a good testament to the movie in general that it's so realistic in the emotional portrayal of what was happening, and for this family,
Sure.
etc. People are like, oh, we were bored all the time. So I think for me that was important. If people like a lot of people said that they had some kind of sort of catharsis
Yeah.
because they see their story on screen, or some of them were like, this is insanely hard to watch.
Yeah. I can see that.
So yeah, but it was I was nervous, but it was, Kyiv, greeted us very warmly,
Hmm.
and that was very important, not just for me, for the entire, crew and producers. I mean, everyone. It's, it takes a lot to make a movie, so
Yeah, and especially one with such subject matter, and like you said, it's still going,
yeah,
and who knows when it will end.
yeah,
But what is next for you? So now you have this movie, you've birthed this child, it's out in the world now, right?
yeah, yeah.
To a degree. So what's next with you? What are you working on? What do you want to do?
So I'm finishing a book right now,
Wow.
and yeah, and
What's it
uh,
about?
so it's actually connected to the war as well, but it's kind of more in the vein of magical realism, and
Mm-hmm.
that idea that every new door that the character opens, she gets to the new version of herself, to the new city, and to the
Mm.
action of the war. So it's kind of that idea that we have so many sides of us, and it's interesting. It's magical realism, so
Yeah.
it's much more brutal and honest and mystical and all of those things. So I'm finishing that, and then I have a couple of movie projects that I cannot talk at the moment. But yeah, things are, movie business.
So, what is one thing that you could give advice to filmmakers, writers, that has helped you through your journey, or anything that you've learned through this filmmaking process that you would love to share?
Oh my God. Well, I mean, this movie showed me a couple of times, and I think in general, the more I talk to filmmakers, especially who have experience with like, longer formats,
Hmm.
you die a couple of times making it, and then you kind of get resurrected, and then you die again, and then you got
Yeah.
so it's a brutal process. It's beautiful, but it's brutal.
Yeah.
So I think what's important is, I mean, I even created a whole notebook for myself of things that I learned
Hmm.
after this movie. Like, it
Yeah.
was during pre-production, production, post-production.
That's
So it's like
great.
every step of the way, I'm like,
Sure.
where did I fuck up? How to not do this again? And I
Yeah.
remember I was working back in the day. I was working as an assistant of a director on a feature in LA, and he used to, like, every evening he would sit down and he would write all the mistakes that he did
Oh, I love that.
day.
Love
And I think
that.
it's such a great attitude in
Sure.
general. Like, things, you forget things so fast.
So fast.
So I think here is like constantly being like, okay, what did I learn? Where
Yeah.
all of those things. But I think it's also have the belief of what you're saying is important and
Hmm.
why it's important. Have an amazing team of people who both support you, but also whose opinions you trust enough to challenge you. And
Yeah.
this way the movie is going to become so much better.
Yeah.
And don't die over doing this, because it's
If the word die is going to be in there, it's going to be hair, right? That's the only thing to say.
dye your hair.
I dye your hair. Well, this is great. I mean, they do say to change it up, right? If you're creatively stuck. I know Aaron Sorkin, when he
Do it.
writes, he
Do
changes the
it.
weather. You know, some people change their hair. I get it. But
Dark cherry, mermaid style.
boom, that's it. Love it. But
Yeah.
Alice, thank you so much for taking the time today to join us. If you're in New York next, come by the studio. Let's do an in-person interview. Would love that.
I would
Would
love
love
to.
to have you here. And best of luck. And
Thank you.
everyone, when we don't have details yet, but Our House on Fire will be coming at some point where you can stream it, watch it, support the film. It's incredible, made by an amazing filmmaker. So Alice, thank you so much for joining today.
Thank you
And
for having me and asking such wonderful questions.
okay, my pleasure. And we'll speak soon.
Yeah.
Ciao.
Ciao.